Death Stranding should have been a one and done. Kojima's rebound from Metal Gear Solid 5 came in 2019 in the form of a weird schizo-core, MPreg, futuristic action game called Death Stranding, serving as poignant commentary on the human condition, with the archetype of the last man and the inferno of the same, and eerily seeming to predict the zeitgeist of the years to come after the 2020 COVID pandemic. Death Stranding is a Baudelarian Les Flus du Mal adventure, set in New Zealand-like lonely America, where a disgruntled, everyman delivery person who lost his family and hated himself a fair bit for it, by the name of Sam Porter Bridges, portrayed by Norman Reedus of The Walking Dead fame, is tasked with saving regions of the USA by connecting them to a novel internet, the Chiral Network. After a devastating world event that rendered people unable to exit their homes or touch each other due to fear of extinction, the world has crossed over with the world of the dead, who now freely wander the earth like the dirty, ugly, homeless, fentanyl zombies and immigrants you see outside your window, and if humans touch BTs, this causes massive nuclear explosion-like devastations. This also brought inverted rainbows, deadly rain that quickly ages and kills everything it touches, and people randomly dry-eye crying due to allergies to chiralium, in an allusion to what happens when you play video games for extensive periods of time without hydrating. Rebel forces such as the Mules notwithstanding, who seek to fast forward to extinction given the state of things, and which seem to weirdly co-opt ancient Egyptian motifs, again eerily mirroring the current political landscape of the USA with the Kek cult. The Chiral Network allows for the rebirth of America, allowing people to again commune in virtual space. Humanity perseveres and eventually learns to adapt to the terrible new condition of the world, even leveraging things like timefall, which is deadly on its own, to speed up beer fermentation or crop maturation. Over the years I've been meaning to revisit Death Stranding since they released the director's cut version. However, in hindsight, I'm glad I never did, because Death Stranding 2 is pretty much the same game. It fails to do anything radically new compared to the original. It is, yet again, 40 hours of fetch quest, DeviantArt writing.
Fun.
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Seamless co-op Dark Souls-like features, and clunky driving and shooting in a game world where painstaking, boring inventory management, more often than not, makes you simply trip and fall for the hell of it. It follows the exact same formula, the same patterns, and hits the exact same story beats as the previous game, to the point that I considered it Death Stranding 1.5 rather than Death Stranding 2, similarly to how Tears of the Kingdom is Breath of the Wild 1.5.
What else do you figure sequels do? You dingus. It's always been like this. Sequels are always rehashes.
And to this I'll say you're correct, but also wrong. You forget that it's as much about progress as it is about raising the aura, about nurturing revives, which Death Stranding 2 is sorely lacking. Even though it is more enjoyable to play than its predecessor and its systems are slightly more refined than the previous game, Death Stranding 2 is missing a little bit of the dirty, intimate and weirdly funny feeling of the first one. It lacks aura. Its musical numbers are reused and badly timed, ending sooner than they should in some cases, awkwardly cutting off the music. Its secondary characters are still superficial. It has no Kojima showing us his music collection and making quips about it. It has no Sam Porter taking a big shit or stopping to change your baby's diapers because he got autotoxemic. It has no penis rock. But well, as my mother used to say about my 7-month-old bird, it wasn't necessary, but we're happy you're here. So I do still recommend Death Stranding 2, and as my first foray into the PS5, its pathetic catalog notwithstanding, which is going right back to the store now that I'm done with Death Stranding 2, it's magnanimous. It is a beautiful and graphically impressive game, and it has the best damn particle effects that I've ever seen in gaming. But I honestly hope they don't waste their time with Death Stranding 3. Part 1.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy's feet are moving for his head, nothing seems to fit.
We begin when we left off previously. Sam Porter disappeared from the UCA after its establishment and fled to Mexico to live with Lou. Living a happy life in a shelter, he is suddenly visited by Fragile, portrayed by Lea Seydoux, who strangely seems to have been rejuvenated from her middle-aged lady visage from the first game. Bridges disbanded 11 months after the ending of the previous game, rendering Die Hard Man's, portrayed by Tommy Earl Jenkins, presidency the shortest in history, and in turn, a new corporation, APAC, was formed. The president of APAC, portrayed by Alistair Duncan, is his successor at the helm of the UCA. Leveraging automation through a system named APAS, which provides logistics and service to everyone through robots, APAC has rendered porters obsolete. Therefore, porters must go to remote and hard-to-reach areas outside of the Chiral network, where automation is still not present, to do the work. Fragile herself has also reincorporated Fragile Express as Drawbridge, a civilian organization which provides work for porters. Fragile has a job offer for Sam, to connect Mexico and later Australia to the Chiral network in the aim to create a global Chiral network. Not to be seen as an expansionist or political movement by the UCA, this is the perfect vehicle for a sequel. Ever since I finished the first game, I always wonder, what about other countries? What if they made a Death Stranding in Japan or something like that? How did the Death Stranding affect the rest of the world, and how did it change international politics? And the game sets off to answer a few of those questions. Fragile offers to babysit Lou for Sam while he goes into Mexico, but while he's there, he's ambushed by a mysterious faction of chiral red androids and dog mechs called the Ghost Mechs, who attack Sam's shelter while he's away. Fragile tries to defend Lou from their attack unsuccessfully. It turns out Higgs, portrayed by the fantastic Troy Baker, dressed up as Emily from Death Stranding 1 this time around, was behind the Ghost Mech attack, and he ruthlessly kills Lou in cold blood. Raging for revenge, Sam joins Drawbridge as a porter through their adventure to connect Australia to the Chiral network. Fragile becomes gruff. She has gained 2 Chiral hands for some reason. She then bows her support for Sam and takes full responsibility for what happened to Lou, who has now reverted back to ABT and inhabits Sam's BB pod. Traveling through a new mysterious phenomenon called the Plate Gate, a chiral structure brought forth by the Death Stranding that allows mass migration from Mexico to Australia and other parts of the world, Sam then embarks on a new adventure. Poor Sam, I just wanted him to be left alone and live in peace. But no. Death Stranding 2 is very maritime, borrowing a lot of its inspiration from Moby Dick, as Metal Gear Solid 5 also did. So, Fragile brings forth the DHB Magellan ship in aid of Sam in Australia. Since Death Stranding has replaced the oceans with chiral tar, the Magellan is a special kind of craft that can warp anywhere that there's chiral network coverage, powered by the beach. Here's where the rest of the Drawbridge Corps are introduced. People with special chiral superpowers, who Fragile has recruited to facilitate their mission in Australia. See, after the Death Stranding, a lot of people have become ill with long COVID-like conditions, such as the ones that Sam has, called Dooms. Sam's Dooms allows him to see BTs even without his BB now, similarly to the last game. He still communes with his BB to see visions of the past. Hartman has a heart condition and dies every 21 minutes, and now needs a secondary heart to live, since his heart has become inflamed, like myocarditis. He uses this condition to search for his deceased family on the beach dimension. His partner suffered from project vomiting every 21 minutes as well. Fragile could before connect to the beach to warp, but is now ailing with jump shock and cannot warp anymore. She has also taken up smoking, perhaps over guilt of her loss of Lou. Rainey, portrayed by actors Shioli Kutsuna, a permanently pregnant woman stuck at 7 months pregnancy, has the power of reverse timefall, rain that reverses the passage of time in whatever it touches, and wherever she goes it rains. As a matter of fact, all pregnant women in the world of Death Stranding 2 are stuck at 7 months pregnancy. Deborah Wilson, the doctor, suffers from having 2 right hands, which the game calls chiral hands, and has the ability to commune with stillborn babies in the womb, calling herself a psychic midwife. Dollman is an expeditioner who succumbed to a BT attack, losing his daughter in the process and becoming reincarnated in her most prized doll, which she was carrying at the time. Fragile provides him to Sam as a coping mechanism for his loss of Lou, similarly to how some therapists provide dolls to women who experience miscarriages. He is Sam's best friend for this adventure, and sort of also functions as his therapist, not to mention that he's kawaii as fuck.
Just passing through.
Tomorrow, portrayed by Elle Fanning, a mysterious BT recovered in the field from a chiral sarcophagus, has the ability to age things through touch, and the ship's helmsman, Tarman, because George Miller apparently has a lot of free time now to show up in video games after Furiosa flop, has the ability to navigate the tar currents in the world due to the loss of his son over a BT attack. While rescuing his son, he loses him and his hand to the tar, yet the son mysteriously seems to reincarnate into a beautiful BT kitty. His hand, being in the tar, makes him one with the chiral currents, so he can now travel them at will, but also suffers phantom pain. Deathman is also temporarily back, with Guillermo del Toro's visage, but not his voice, who co-acted the games with Kojima. Deathman is an ex-British scientist made completely out of dead people's parts. This gives him existential angst, yet he learns to rekindle his humanity through his connection with Sam. Deathman shortly dies before giving Sam a gift of vaccines for Lou at the beginning of the game, yet intermittently returns in voice only, borrowing Hartman's body from the beach for 3 minutes at a time, while his heart gives out every 21 minutes. Sadly, there's no sight of Mama and Nocna, since Mercury Quayle is too big for stupid Kojima games now anyway. The crew is sponsored by a mysterious benefactor called Charlie, some kind of AI that controls the DHB Magellan, represented by a mannequin in the middle of the commanding post. Charlie seems to have some link to the bridges of old. Part 2. Why me? I'm just going to lay it out on the table. Death Stranding 2 is one of the most beautiful and graphically realized games that I've ever seen. Flat out, when they showed the intro cutscene, I thought that I was looking at an in-store 4K HDR real-life footage demo of some sort, until a cryptobiot flew by on the screen. I'm usually very hesitant of making statements like this, but honest to goodness, I consider this to be the sole occasion where I've been convinced enough by a video game that it looks 100% real-life-like without hitting the uncanny valley. The Decima Engine's team here has to be commended. The game has the most impressive particle effects that I've ever seen, specifically in the Mexico scene where Sam meets Neil Bana for the first time, portrayed by Luca Marinelli. Neil is some mysterious kind of BT that takes the place of Sam's father in the prequel, Cliff. He shows up for combat scenes when Sam gets warped to mysterious locations because he has some kind of axe to grind with him. Neil Bana seems to have some sort of connection to Lucy Strand, Sam's wife before she passed away, who was the therapist assigned to him to treat his aphenosphobia before the events of Death Stranding. I wish this level of graphical achievement had translated to the game design part of Death Stranding 2, but it doesn't. It's not that the game is bad, it's just that it seems to retread the first game wholesale. Did I just wait 6 years for more fetch quests, now with mines, monorails, earthquakes, underwater levels, and forest fires? When I played Death Stranding 1 for the first time, the first 2 hours or so were absolutely magical, because the mechanics were unlike anything ever seen before, and I was truly hankering for innovation back then. When you're going blind into something radically new like that, the process of discovery feels incredibly rewarding. Now, it all seems passé, and nobody even seems intimidated or puzzled by the Death Stranding in any substantial way. I stand by my previous comments that Japanese developers don't really seem to know what to do about open world gaming, which I now consider a blight upon the gaming industry. Not everything has to be GTA, but the industry for some reason wants everything to be like GTA nowadays. The problem with open world games which I've dubbed Barren Wasteland games in the Metal Gear Solid 5 essay, is that pretty technically impressive, massive, and beautiful as they might be, when you look behind the facade, they usually are unengaging, completely empty, and devoid of content besides repetitive copy-paste busy work and buildings. New Zelda is a particularly horrible offender in this front, putting all of its eggs into the dreaded emergent gameplay basket. Basically, open world games tend to fail to engage the player in a substantial manner, traversal in particular being completely uninteresting. That's why gamers rapidly and unequivocally prefer fast travel mechanics in each and every single open world game there is. Death Stranding attempts to fix this problem by making traversal the whole point of the game. If your open world game hinges on a movement system that forces you to be mindful of your every step lest you collapse and lose all your cargo, then the game is constantly engaging you at every point. This is interesting in an "I like the way this sucks" manner, but it fails to address the repetitive busy work side of the equation. Sure, there's fun segments and secrets to discover, like getting to meet Usara Pecora, Gen Hoshino, and a plethora other celebrity buddies of Kojima, like a funny celebrity pizza chef who teaches you pizza karate, or the ghost bikes, which will challenge you to a race. But these moments are too few and far between to justify 40 plus hours of Amazon Delivery Man Simulator of 2025. The game insists on it being the second ever Strand type genre game, in Kojima's words. The sole other competitive point to the game besides the story is the chiral network seamless co-op features. When you play, you are assigned an instance of the game to which you connect. Infrastructure, facilities, and aids that you build in the game are made available online asynchronously to every other player who is also connected to your instance. There's no real reward for any of this except for in-game likes, in what is also social commentary about the all-absorbedness of social media in the modern world and its impact on the human condition, and a vague feeling of satisfaction and of having maybe helped someone somewhere, which truly does happen, by the way. I've been saved by structures left behind by other players way too many times. Unfortunately, the seamless co-op also leaves a lot to be desired, given that the only new innovation comes in the form of catapults, ramps, transponders, and hot springs. The first two are directly copied over from Death Stranding Director's Cut and allow even more options to move cargo around, but I personally never found any compelling use to the catapults, and the game awkwardly forced me to use them in just one mission, because it was either that or taking a single step and breaking all my cargo. The ramps are fun because they allow you to gain massive air and fall in style, but they're fun to use exactly once. Transponders and hot springs enable you to fast travel, but the game has too many options for fast travel and it sort of becomes confusing. On top of this, you can also travel with the DHV Magellan. Which option am I supposed to use if they all do the same? It seems redundant. Why me? Sam asks repeatedly, and the thematics of the game follow suit. Why couldn't I have been left alone? Fuck this. Perhaps the reticence bleeds through in Norman Reedus' performance in this game, which is a little flattered this time around, almost as if he didn't want to be there but had to because Kojima is his friend. Why do I have to do this all over again? It's all the same as it was before. Pick up cargo, clunky movement, tar zombies, shitty mob camps, clunky shooting, deliver, click through horrible UIs which seem more like a UI that you would use for your job at the Shinkansen terminal than a video game, and repeat ad nauseam. I must also say that the game, sadly, defaults for a considerable part of its runtime to simply being a bad slapdash over-the-shoulder cover shooter, trying to awkwardly recapture a bit of the magic from the Phantom Pain, Animal Collection haphazardly also included. Kojima Productions and Decima team, I will knock you down a few additional points due to your glaring omission of gyro aiming, which should be a standard in shooting games now. And shoot, you will. The world is ridiculously filled with weapons and combat this time around, this happening perhaps as Kojima Productions' reactions to criticisms about the first game being nothing but a walking simulator to the point of overcorrection. I never once had a single void out in the previous game, and I have the save file to prove it, but it's almost like this game wants to force you to witness one now. There's even a recurring Kraken-like, Metal Gear-like, giant ghost mech, and a Metal Gear-like alert chime, which plays when you get spotted out of stealth. I will insist, the game is still worth your time as the first one was. There's a deep feeling of satisfaction to be derived from building and repairing infrastructure in the game. There's a certain zen-like beauty in it. This is where the game shines best, imposing problems which have to be solved strategically, physically, critically, planning ahead. The key idea being that routes, which initially seem insurmountable and are a pain to traverse, are eventually trivialized for everyone once you start building infrastructure. Remember, we want new games, Kojima, not store-brand, copyright-friendly, I can't believe it's not Metal Gear Solid. It seems that Kojima is still too salty about losing Metal Gear, and to this I would just say, Kojima, let that shit go. Part 3.
Sunset. The day is ending. Let that yawn out. There's no pretending. I will hold you.
Throughout the game, the President will disclose to you that Drawbridge seems to be in cahoots with the UCA, and even though they claim not to be expansionist in their intent, they're actually extending the Chiral network worldwide as political action. This all turns to be misdirection when the President actually discloses Apac's real plan. He gave Higgs resources for weapons because he actually needed to create a reason to motivate Sam to go out and finish the global Chiral network. Higgs is manufacturing Chiral weapon printers around the world and trafficking them through pizza delivery services to create a state of terror and incite violence among people, to create sticks that will counteract the rope that people have built. At one point, Higgs decides to take Sam out for good, attacking him with his cool guitar flamethrower gun with some kind of perennial fire that incinerates Sam, kills him, only for him to repatriate, just to be killed again so that he's stuck in a never-ending loop of death and resurrection. In agony and unable to recover, Sam collapses and loses all hope, being stuck in the time loop for an incomprehensible amount of time, to be fortunately saved by the DHB Magellan crew in a nick of time. After this crisis, the DHB Magellan crew also discloses to Sam that his BB pod, which throughout the whole game you've been carrying with Lou's fetal BT, had been empty all along, the projection of Lou as a fetus being an illusion. Then the President reveals that the Chiral network was created by Bridges through human trafficking comatose still mothers from Mexico into the USA for child sacrifice. The plan is to create an ultra-powerful metaverse through experimentation with these fetuses, creatures for whom time holds no meaning, which will eradicate all need for travel, movement, and physical touch, in the aims to prevent human evolution stagnation. This is part of a transhumanist elite ploy to fuse all of humanity into one consciousness on the Chiral network, where they will forever be neither alive nor dead. If you think that this is starting to suspiciously look a lot like Neon Genesis Evangelion and others, it's because it is. Neil Bana was one of the smugglers employed by Bridges for human trafficking, yet he decides to quit once he realizes what is going on, breaking it down with his therapist, Lucy, who he had a mysterious connection with from way back in their childhood, meeting during an incident in Mexico where they both got branded. This Lucy is Sam's wife, who gets into an affair with Neil that she decides to break off when she realizes that she's pregnant with Sam's child. Bridges wishes to extract it for their studies on the Chiral network, who was then 7 months old in Lucy's womb. In a panic, Lucy elopes with Neil to Mexico from the USA, but in attempting to do so, they're killed by Bridges. Her BB is then extirpated and hidden as top secret material, erased from the internal Bridges records. This BB is the BB that Sam was assigned in his original mission, Lou, codename BB00, contrary to Sam being the original BB28, who Cliffhanger wanted to retrieve. After being killed in rage, Neil becomes the first BT and returns to the world of the living to exact revenge. This originates the Death Stranding through the first Void Out. The plan of the President and Bridges now is, then, to extract 4,000 people and turn them into BTs to create a single, all-powerful beach, which will become the main server room of the Chiral network, and a new beach where all of humanity can be enslaved to eternally live in a state between life and death. This is elaborated in depth by the president when touring you around the Chiral server room, to be suddenly toured by Charlie. It is revealed that Charlie was Die Hardman all along, and Drawbridge and the UCA weren't evil as suggested by the president, but instead they sneakily sabotaged the president's plan behind the scenes, believing that the future envisioned by the president with the Chiral network must not come to pass. This is communicated by means of a dope-ass dance number by Charlie/Die Hardman, because fuck you, that's why. He then cuts off the president for good from the operation of the Chiral network. The Chiral network you installed had a failsafe all along, designed by Die Hardman to disconnect people who want to abuse it for their own nefarious plans. And following the will of the last extinction entity from the previous game, Amelie, Higgs kidnaps Tomorrow to try to gain access to the server room beach and enact the last Stranding that Amelie told Sam he was merely pushing away indefinitely instead of eradicating in Death Stranding's ending. Sam and the Magellan crew travel to this dimension at the end of the game to stop Higgs, salvaging Higgs' guitar from their previous encounter. This provides you with unlimited ammo for the last section of the game. Here the game turns into a mecha movie, with the DHB Magellan seizing one of the massive BTs as a mech. Also then, a ghost mech, which had been inhabited by the spirit of Deadman, who had been silently following him throughout the game at this point, shows up to help Sam during the final fight, after which he proceeds to a one-on-one guitar solo battle with Higgs. In case you hadn't noticed, this is freaking dope! I recommend listening to the DualSense haptics during this part of the game, by the way, since they're utilized to great effect. After the guitar solo battle, Lou reincarnates as a massive BV and kills off Higgs by consuming him. It is revealed that Neil from the other world took control of Lou as she died after Fragile gets attacked, and reincarnated her as Tomorrow, who was revealed to have been Sam's daughter all along. Once Tomorrow is rescued, she gets reunited with Sam, who is now grieving after Fragile. Fragile tragically dies due to her jump shock after the final beach jump. In the end, Lou Porter Bridges is revealed to succeed Sam as a porter.
That's why today is another day on the road.
Part 4. Tomorrow is in your hands. Death Stranding 1 and 2 should be taken as two sides of the same coin, coming off a bit disappointingly as a demi-sequel, a phenomenon that I've been noticing way too often in the gaming industry lately, where sequels blatantly reuse a previous game to middling results. Death Stranding 2 does play well if played in conjunction with the prequel. Spider-Man did this, since Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2 are pretty much the same game, and Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom also did this, half-heartedly reusing the first game in the latter, slapping a premium $70 price tag on it for no good reason. I understand that game development is expensive and has become an extenuating Sisyphean task, but I urge developers to avoid falling into this pitfall. Do not fall further into the inferno the same. I am not opposed to asset reuse, since Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game of all time, and that was almost 100% recycled Ocarina of Time assets, but it remixed them creatively and with a soul of its own in the span of a single year. I would have hated it if Majora's Mask ended up being a simple Ocarina of Time Master Quest that took 6 whole years to develop and came out in a mediocre console to boost sales, which is exactly what happened with Tears of the Kingdom and Death Stranding 2. Ultimately, the Death Stranding games are a beautiful, phallocentric allegory of the status quo in modern America after the 2020 COVID pandemic. Tugging at the heartstrings of the aging Kojima fandom, it appeals to their anxiety of maturity, masterfully using memento mori themes such as the loss of one's parents or children, miscarriages, stillbirths, childbearing, health problems, aging, the ordering of the fellow man, demographic change, and the fear of impending societal collapse through politics, pandemics, war, and climate change. It is applied to the millennial generation not to give up on life, that they heard in their struggles and loneliness even in this chaos, upon the advent of the internet echo chamber, and not of the culture of the now, but the culture of the now. It is also a call to action to rekindle your connection with your fellow man and to try to rebuild the communities which were destroyed by the plentiful, horrific world events we've been subjected to. Like the other lives in two worlds at the same time, one must learn to live in the physical and virtual imbalance. It's no coincidence that Sam's spirit animal is the other. In doing this, Death Stranding serves as an ode to the nameless hero, the average Joe, whose thankless, grueling, lonely labor tends to get ignored in the modern culture, while still keeping everything selflessly running. Kojima is right. There's so many people who are completely lost in social media, who are neither alive nor dead anymore. So, should we have connected? Is what the game ultimately asks its players. There is such a thing as being too lost on the internet, too lost in the virtual. I applaud the game's theme of we will not give up on life and the real world, no matter what, even though it does seem as if the elite want to nix travel and physicality forever in the real world. His words are inspiring that in the end, we will choose life, and that to face difficulties head-on is, and always has been, the best course of action. Play it now if you can, but quite honestly, if you already played one, you're not missing much.
Because I'm free, nothing's worrying me.